Growing up, I knew the Torah was the large scroll at the front of the synagogue that was sometimes unfurled and read from during services. And I had a vague sense that it was Judaism's core sacred text. But while I was familiar with some of its stories and characters, I had no idea that it is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Tanakh, which Christians refer to as the Old Testament. Unlike Christians, Jews do not believe the Hebrew Bible, Tanakh, was superseded by the New Testament, which details the life and teachings of Jesus, so we do not use the Christian term Old Testament. The word Tanakh is an acronym for the names of the Hebrew Bible's 3 main sections. The 5 books of the Torah compose the first section. The other 2 sections are the Nevi'im, which means prophets, and includes the books named after Hebrew prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah, and the Ketuvim, which means writings, and includes books like Psalms, Proverbs, Job, and Ecclesiastes. While the Nevi'im and Ketuvim are important in Judaism, the Torah is our most holy text and is regarded as the source of Jewish law. When I first read the Torah as an adult, and I learned that just about all of Judaism is rooted in its words, that did not exactly fill me with confidence. I found parts of it to be moving and relatable, but with its bizarre rituals, fallible characters, supernatural occurrences, and not so warm and fuzzy God, the Torah did not strike me as an ideal text upon which to base a major world religion. I've since come around and now understand that the Torah is filled with revolutionary ideas, deep insights into the human condition, and profound moral wisdom. But getting there was a process, one I went through with many aspects of Judaism I encountered, from skepticism or disdain, to gradual comprehension and grudging appreciation, to outright appreciation, and often something that feels like love. The Torah's plot. In my skepticism and disdain phase, I read the Torah mainly for plot, as a quasi-historical account of the exploits of my ancestors. Read this way, the Torah goes something like this. Book 1, Genesis. Creation story number 1. God brings the world and humans into being in 6 days via a series of verbal commands, and then rests on the 7th day. Creation story number 2. God creates Adam out of the dust of the earth, breathes life into him, settles him in the Garden of Eden, forbids him to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and creates Eve from his side, or from his rib. There is a debate as to how this particular Hebrew word should be translated. Adam and Eve eat from the forbidden tree, and God expels them from the garden. Adam and Eve have 2 sons, Cain and Abel. God accepts the sacrifice from Abel and not Cain. Cain becomes jealous and kills Abel. People multiply on earth and behave badly. God sends a flood to wipe out everyone but a man named Noah, his family, and a select group of animals. God then makes a covenant with all humankind and animal kind never to do so again. God tells a man named Abram to leave his native land of Mesopotamia for a new land, the Promised Land, known as Canaan, which his descendants will inherit, and God declares that they will become a great nation. Abram does so, along with his wife, Sarai. Sarai is infertile and tells Abram to take her Egyptian maid, Hagar, as a surrogate. Hagar gets pregnant. Sarai is jealous and mistreats Hagar. Hagar runs away. God comforts Hagar and tells her to return. Hagar gives birth to Ishmael. God helps Sarai conceive, at the age of 90, and changes her name to Sarah and Abram's name to Abraham. God threatens to kill all the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah because of their cruelty and immorality, not, as some later claimed, because they are gay. Abraham pushes back on God, convincing God to relent if there are at least 10 righteous men to be found. There aren't. God goes through with God's plan. Sarah gives birth to Isaac. Years later, God tells Abraham to sacrifice Isaac as a burnt offering, but stops him just as he's about to do so. Isaac grows up, marries Rebekah, and they have twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob gets Esau, who came out of the womb first, to give up the inheritance due to him as the firstborn son, and then, at Rebekah's urging, swindles him out of an important deathbed blessing from their father. Esau vows revenge, and Jacob flees to his uncle, Laban. Jacob falls in love with Laban's daughter, Rachel, is tricked by Laban into marrying his other daughter, Leah, but then marries Rachel too. Polygamy and cousin marrying were common back then. Jacob decides to reconcile with Esau. On his way to meet his brother, he encounters a mysterious being with whom he has an overnight wrestling match. Jacob prevails, and the being changes Jacob's name to Israel and declares, "For you have wrestled with God and man and have prevailed." Jacob and Esau have a touching reunion. Jacob and his family settle in Canaan. Jacob's favorite son, Joseph, annoys his brothers, and they retaliate by selling him into slavery. Through a series of unfortunate and then fortunate events, Joseph becomes the deputy of the Egyptian pharaoh. When a famine hits, Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to purchase food. They come before Joseph, the brothers eventually reconcile, and the whole family moves to Egypt.